There is so much focus on NFTs right now for art and land purchases. It is absolutely insane. Those two things are just going through the roof. But what are NFTs? And more importantly, why should your business care about them at all? There are a lot of reasons that you should. I'm here to tell you that you should care about them. And those reasons are going to skyrocket as we move down the metaverse road together into this metaverse future. So if you want to understand what this stuff is and why your business needs to get involved, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about what they are, how they're built, the different types of NFTs, and finally, why you should care. My name is Trent Kennelly. I'm a marketing strategist, and on this channel, I talk about all the things that you can do to improve your business through marketing, sales, and analytics. So if that sounds good to you and you're excited, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, comment to let me know how you feel about NFTs before this and how you feel about them after. I would love to know if I changed your mind a little bit, and let's get started. Okay, so what are NFTs? An NFT is a digital thing that is uniquely owned by you. It's built on the back of a blockchain like Ethereum or Solana. And just to clarify what a blockchain is, it's kind of like a ledger that keeps track of every owner of an NFT or a cryptocurrency. So if I mint, AKA create, an NFT using Ethereum's blockchain and then sell it to you, the blockchain, the algorithm, the program in the back end, records that transaction. So it says it went from this wallet to that wallet, from Trent's wallet to your wallet, whatever that wallet ID is. And then you sell it to someone else and the blockchain updates again with that transaction information and on down the line. The really important thing about an NFT here is that because it's being recorded by a blockchain, it isn't something that can be duplicated in the sense that there's only one true version of it. Now, if we're talking about art, is it possible for someone to do a copy paste of the image and have it for themselves? Of course. But there's only one person on the market that owns the NFT, that has purchased it directly through the blockchain and who has the original copy. After the sale has started, no one's going to be able to pawn a fake because your true version is clearly recorded by the blockchain algorithm. That's what's so valuable about it. So to understand a little bit better about what NFTs are, we need to understand how they're built, kind of a little bit. We need like a high level view of this, okay? The short, unsatisfying answer for how they're built is they're built in a lot of different ways, okay? But this is a great moment, the reason I bring this up, to remind you that NFTs are not just art. We're gonna get into the details of that side of things in just a second, but for now, I just wanna point out that because of the different types of NFTs there are out there, we're talking about land, we're talking about physical transactions. We'll get into all that again in a second, but I just want to point out that there are more and less complex ways for NFTs to be built. So let's just use one example here. It's a pretty typical example of NFT art, okay? So you might think that an NFT art collection with 10,000 pieces means that someone sat down and drew 10,000 different variations of the same NFT image. And that is not true at all. It's really not that labor intensive. Actually, what's happening is that someone will draw the basic model. So let's say a normal bored ape, and then they draw a bunch of traits. So a trait would be sunglasses or a halo or pizza or an open mouth or a closed mouth. And then they'll take all of those traits in the positions that they're in. So, you'll see the open mouth over top of the regular mouth for the bored ape, or the sunglasses on top of the head, or sunglasses, hanging around the neck with a chain or something. I don't know. And they'll take those different traits, they'll separate them out, and then they'll use an algorithm to combine those traits in different ways. So it really is just a matching algorithm, okay? The more traits that you have, the more variations on the NFT there are. But then if we use another example, let's look at land, okay? This is more like a traditional land sale. It's just digital. I know that that sounds a little bit weird because digital space is unlimited, right? But what's happening is that metaverses like Decentraland or like Somnium Space, they're creating parcels of land that can be bought and sold like real estate in the physical world. So they're limiting the amount of area that is land that can be purchased. Now, can they expand that later? Yes, of course. But right now, it's limited to X amount of parcels, and you can purchase those parcels. So it's a lot like a traditional land sale, and it's just minted land instead of having to go through a creation process like with NFT art. Okay, so now it's time to dive into those different types of NFTs, because as I've said 20 times in this video already, art is not the only type of NFT and land is not the only other type, okay? There's lots of different things that you can do here. So I'd just like to overview them, including art and land, just so we have a clear idea of all of these different types of NFTs NFTs, and then I think you're gonna start to see why you as a business should care about this. So NFT art is the most obvious. Bored Apes, CryptoPunks, these are some of the most famous examples of NFT art that are out there right now. It's exactly what I described above, where you've got a base character and then a bunch of traits, and it changes the way that the thing looks, and so now you've got 10,000 piece collections instead of one piece of art. So this is the thing that everyone's talking about right now, and it's the area of NFTs that are seeing incredibly high returns at this moment. Second type we've also kind of covered, which is land. So this is the second biggest NFT type right now. Metaverses like Decentraland and Somnium Space are selling parcels of land that the owners can then build anything that they want on. So now we have gambling halls and malls and museums and NFT art galleries, etc., all over the place in Decentraland and Somnium Space and some of these other guys. It's really impressive. Next, tickets. So what do I mean by tickets? Okay, do I mean tickets like you can get into a concert? Well, yes, I do mean that. So you can buy an NFT that is a ticket that you can then take in the physical world to show to a concert venue, and then you can get in. But I also mean something really interesting and unique here. So we're gonna use this project Keys to the Metaverse as an example here. So these just look like keys, right? It just looks like an art project that are keys. But what's interesting here is that these keys come with an API connection. An API is a program that allows two systems to talk to each other that wouldn't normally talk. So just an outside the metaverse, outside NFTs example, if I wanted to upload a video to TikTok and have that TikTok video automatically be posted on YouTube as a short, I can do that via API connection. So I would say, all right, I posted a video on TikTok. Now download it, put it in a Google Sheet, spread out the different pieces, take those pieces, put them in this way into a YouTube short. You use an API connection to make that happen. That's very basic. That's my Zapier brain, not necessarily a programmer's brain working on that problem, but you get the idea, okay? An API connection really adds a lot of flexibility for events, for exclusivity, for doing things inside games and across different metaverses. So you could take one of these keys to the metaverse, you could use it on Horizon Worlds, on the Oculus platform, and you could use it on Decentraland, and both of those could have API connections that allow you to do X, Y, and Z on those different platforms. Really cool idea, and that's where we're going with tickets and keys. Next is physical world land. So a group in Tampa, Florida recently sold a home as an NFT for $654,000. So this is something that's being experimented with in the real world as well. They're trying to figure out how to use NFTs in everyday life. Now, it is worth noting that this is a bit of a trickier situation to sell a home, a physical home, as an NFT than other NFT types would be, because at least under US law, an NFT is currently looked at as a license for exclusive use and not something that's truly owned by the purchaser. So if the previous owner of the house decides to be a jerk and come back and claim ownership or something, there could be an interesting court battle to follow, and that's really going to affect any kind of a real world physical real estate market for NFTs. We'll have to see how that plays out. And then the final NFT type I want to talk about is non-tangible real-world items. So I mean things like music that you listen to in your ear, or an event ticket like I talked about before. You show a QR code that is your NFT, etc. There's a lot of things that we work with in the real world that are digital, that are non-tangible. So we can start to tokenize those things, add a layer of security, add a layer of interactivity between the real and the digital worlds, so that we can start to kind of bring these two together, but also we can increase the effectiveness of NFTs. We can make NFTs into whatever we want if we think about how we're applying them in that way. So for instance, Kings of Leon just released an album as an NFT that is a great example of how this can be used in the real world. All right, now we're finally here. Let's talk about why businesses should care, and let's start with this. If I have not made it clear up to this point, NFT art is not the extent of what's possible with NFTs. And if I'm being completely honest, they're probably the most boring part of what NFTs are capable of. Yes, they can be great for a quick buck, and I'm not knocking that at all. But the usefulness of NFTs goes so far beyond art and land. So let's just step back and look at how they work in a wider metaverse. So let's use Decentraland as an example. Decentraland needs two things to function well. They need a way to interact, so that would be a VR headset, a desktop player, whatever, some way to be in the world, right? And they need an economy to interact inside of. And an economy is made up of what? Money and things. NFTs are the things, and cryptocurrency is the money. Okay, so now let's push that analogy just a little bit further. In the physical world, what can you buy? You can buy art and toys and games and event tickets and one-on-one coaching sessions. Anything that you can think of and anything that has ever been bought over the course of human history. That means tangible and non-tangible things. That means things in digital environments and things in physical environments. And it is not just art or land, okay? So if we want to sell something to someone in a metaverse, how can that be done? I bet you're on to me at this point. It is NFTs. That is the answer. The uses of NFTs are as varied as you can possibly imagine. All the NFT is used for in so many cases is just to display uniqueness. This is your unique wearable that you purchased. That doesn't mean that that wearable wasn't one of an identical 10,000 pieces. It just means that you have a real, unique, individual wearable, okay? And if you can simplify the use of NFTs to just being a unique identifier, it suddenly becomes much clearer to see how many different ways we can use NFTs in the metaverse and beyond. So here we go. This is why your business should really care in a nutshell. Whatever you're selling in the real world, with a few exceptions like food, can be sold here in the metaverse. And you can use it to access people where they are, aka the metaverse or online, and you can integrate APIs that allow your NFTs to be used no matter where the user is, and you can sell anything from the real world in the metaverse using NFTs, especially with Boson Protocol that's coming out very soon. You can check out this video for more information, but most importantly, it allows you to build a community. Because building, selling, launching, and cultivating an NFT collection are all about the community. Remember that this all comes down to people. And like any business, you need a community if you want to drive sales. The NFT community is absolutely ravenous right now, and very few businesses are involved with it in any way. So you have a huge advantage by getting involved in the space and stretching the bounds of what you sell and how you sell it, and not just focusing on art, because again, that's probably the most basic form of this. We can go so much further. So I hope you understand NFTs just a little bit better now, and I hope you can see why you want to use them in your business, whether that's like Gary Vee, who provides a monthly one-on-one for any of his NFT holders, or it's simply a way to sell a physical product in the metaverse. There's just so much flexibility here. It's a really impressive system. So I hope that helped you understand things a little bit better. Let me know what you think about NFTs, what you thought about them before, and if I changed your mind, I would love to know. I find that most people only think of them as digital art, and so the opinion tends to be pretty low until you start to understand all of these different facets. Otherwise, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, and I will catch you in the next one.